Welcome to Resilient Georgia's April 2026 general meeting. We are so grateful that you can be here with us today. For those who may be new, Resilient Georgia hosts two virtual general meetings each year in April and November, and they're always a meaningful opportunity to come together, learn from each other, and stay connected across our state. We are really excited about today's theme, Resilience in Action, showcasing the community resiliency model across Georgia. You'll hear directly from partners across the state who are bringing CRIM skills to their communities. And we hope that you leave feeling inspired, energized, and maybe even interested in taking a CRIM training yourself. So before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping things. You won't be able to be on camera or on microphone as a webinar guest, but we encourage you to please utilize the chat. We'll have some opportunities for engagement throughout the presentation today. So please feel free to engage with us. We're excited to hear from you. If you experience any technical issues, you can reach out to Catherine on our team. Her email is kchambers@resilientga.org. We'll be capturing any questions from the chat, and we'll be pulling everything together in a follow-up document and sharing that out within a week or so after the call, as well as we are recording this session, and this will be uploaded on our website and shared out via email. And to make things a little fun, we'll be raffling off two $50 gift cards to Organic Harvest at the end of the call. You will need to be present to win, so be sure to stay with us until the end if you want a chance to win a gift card. Now, it is truly an honor to introduce our special guest today. Elaine Miller-Karras from the Trauma Resource Institute is going to kick off our call today. She is a licensed clinical social worker, a trauma therapist, author, and an internationally recognized leader in resiliency-informed care. She is also the founder and executive director emerita of the Trauma Resource Institute and the developer of both the community resiliency model and the trauma resiliency model. These frameworks are now used around the world to support healing and recovery. Elaine has worked in more than 70 countries, consulting with organizations, including Emory University, and presenting at venues such as the United Nations. She is the author of Building Resiliency of Trauma to Trauma and has dedicated her career to advancing culturally responsive, community-based approaches to healing. We are so grateful to have her with us today. So Elaine, I will turn it over to you. Oh, and Elaine, you're on mute. We cannot hear you.
Thank you, Nikki. It's so great to be here, and I feel so honored to have been invited. I want to begin with a gentle invitation. So, just for a moment, I want to invite everyone to bring to mind something or someone that uplifts you, gives you strength, gives your life purpose. And just to think about it for a moment. And as you think about your answer, I now invite you to notice the sensations on the inside and draw attention to the pleasant or neutral sensations. For those of you that don't know the community resiliency model, this is the community resiliency model in action, is how we cultivate our well-being. As I said, it's truly an honor to be here with Resilient Georgia, this gathering that I'm going to say, because also know that my dear colleague and friend, who really is the ambassador of CRIM in Georgia, Lindy Grabby, is here as well, that I think that we have a movement here in Georgia. And this movement that I've observed, oh my goodness, and very humbling for me to see how many people are here and how many people are using CRIM throughout the state. But it's really rooted in care, connection, and the belief that healing is possible in every community. Now, when I first began developing the community resiliency model, I was guided by a simple but powerful truth. Our reactions to stress and trauma are not signs of weakness. They are biological responses of a very intelligent nervous system trying to protect us. Now, that understanding, as many of you know, changes everything. And we often say in CRIM and I'll say use CRIM here on out rather than saying community resiliency model. Instead of saying what's wrong with you, we ask the question, what has happened to you, but most importantly, what is right about you? And when I first began developing CRIM, I was not trying to create something complex. I was listening to people who had experienced unimaginable loss, natural disasters, violence, displacement, but also the quiet, everyday burdens that so many people carry. And so today, each of you represents part of an amazing community of healing. You are educators, nurses, mental health clinicians, community leaders, first responders, parents, advocates, and many more. And whether you realize it or not, you are also regulators of the nervous systems of others. Because we now know something important: nervous systems are contagious. That's what we've learned in CRIM, isn't it? And as stress can spread, but so can calm. Fear can ripple, but so can resilience and well being. And that is where really the community resiliency model comes in. It's designed to be simple, accessible, shareable, not because trauma is simple. We would never trivialize that, but because healing must be reachable for all of us. It is really a public health approach that teaches us how to notice what's happening inside of our bodies, uses our senses to come back to the present moment, find and strengthen what helps us feel steady, grounded, feel like ourselves again. Now, we call that the resilient zone. Many people call it the zone of well being now, the ZOW zone, or kids call it the OK zone, that place where we can handle the ups and downs of life without becoming overwhelmed. And here is what I want to emphasize today: the goal is not to eliminate stress. The goal is to help people learn how to return again and again to that zone of well being, that resilient zone. Georgia, you are all doing something extraordinary. You're not just learning these skills, you are embedding them into systems. And that's one of the reasons why I love Resilient Georgia, into schools, into healthcare, into community organizations, really into the fabric of daily life. This is how change happens, not through one training, one person, but through shared language, shared practice, and shared commitment. Many of you have heard me say, what we pay attention to grows. If we only focus on what is broken, we will see more brokenness. But when we begin to notice moments of strength, moments of connection, moments when someone feels just a little bit more okay, we begin to grow our well-being, our resilience. And resilience doesn't mean that we don't feel pain. It means we have the capacity to move through the pain, even embrace the pain. Both things can be true. We can embrace the pain and not lose ourselves in it. It means we can bend without breaking, feel without being overwhelmed, and most importantly, as is true to this gathering, stay connected to one another. So as you move through this gathering, I invite you to do three things today. Be curious about your own nervous system. Notice what helps you feel more settled, more present, even right now. Second, practice the skills. Remember, we have that free iChill app, not just to learn them, make it part of your lived experience. And third, remember the power you carry into your communities. Every time you help someone notice their breath, sense their feet on the ground, remember what gives them strength, you are changing the trajectory of their nervous system and their life. And that matters more than we can measure. So I want to close with this. In a world that often feels uncertain, divided, and overwhelmed, the work you're doing is profoundly hopeful. You're helping people come back home to themselves. And when individuals begin to feel more regulated and connected, communities begin to heal. And I think many of you not only know that, you've seen it and you've embodied it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you're doing. And thank you for being part of this growing, powerful movement. And thank you to Resilient Georgia. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Elaine. And wow, can I just say thank you so much for sharing those beautiful, beautiful words. I could not have said it in any better way. You really encapsulated the impact that this model has across communities and individuals. And I've seen this model work in my own life as well. And so I'm just so grateful. So we will go ahead and kick it off to our first presenter today. And we will start our showcase. So we are going to learn from on 5 different presentations from various sectors how community resiliency model has been incorporated into various sectors. And our first presenter today is going to be Chaplain Dale Simmons. So I will go ahead and kick it to him.
Thank you, Nikki. I am so honored to be here today with many of you. I'm fairly new to the Resilient Georgia, probably only a year or so, and I'm so glad to be a part of this. I want to talk to you this morning about first responders. That is my heart. That's where I've spent most of my career, over 20 years in fire and EMS, and an opportunity to teach first responders. So I want to just start off with what I think are some of the issues we deal with. I believe mental health is some of the best kept secret among first responders. You can see there 85% of first responders report symptoms related to mental health conditions in their everyday life. Nearly 30% of first responders develop behavioral health conditions, including depression and PTSD. And this next line boggles me. This has been going on for the last 10 years or better. Most first responders complete suicide each year, then die in the line of duty. And we need to do something to help them deal with the trauma they see on a regular basis. So, some of the underlying causes that we see, if you are an average person, you may experience 2 to 3 traumas in your lifetime. A first responder can see trauma every 2 or 3 per shift. Sometimes coming straight out of school and going to the streets, they may see trauma the first day they're out there. And one of the things we struggle with is survivor's guilt. We can't save everybody, and that's what we've been trained to do. And one of the other issues that happens with that is flashbacks, and that sometimes comes from things we see, smell, and hear. Sounds, smells, and things that happen after the call will take us back to the call and cause our emotional stress to trigger itself again. And we end up in not being in the okay zone, we end up being in the high zone. And there's still a stigma today. I wish that wasn't true. I have been a chaplain for many years, and we continue to say reaching out, asking for help for mental health is okay. We used to hear "suck it up, buttercup," just make it better, and trying to get first responders to understand that it's okay to ask for help. That there's not an issue with that, but we still see that. Sleep deprivation among first responders is massive. If a first responder is up more than 18 hours, their mental acuity is equivalent to 0.08 blood drug alcohol. If they're up more than 24 hours, it's 0.10. And so their ability to make good decisions sometimes helps and gets us in trouble. So what we need to hear, what first responders need to hear is this: we are normal people with normal emotions to abnormal situations. And we get that word abnormal messed up. We throw that word abnormal into the first part there where we're abnormal people. We think we're weird because we can't handle the things of life, whether that be at work or at home. And that our emotions are abnormal, that the things we're feeling in our bodies is wrong and we shouldn't feel this way. And sometimes we're even told that we shouldn't feel this way. And so for us, what's the solution for us? The 2 things that we teach here in the Savannah area, which is where I'm from, we teach a program called Resilience Enhancement and Leadership Model, what we call REALM. Some of the things that we talk about in Community Resilience Model, we cover some of those, but the 3 areas that we try to focus on are personal, interpersonal, and organizational relationships. These are 3 areas dealing with ourselves. We're constantly working with our teammates and the coworkers, and then also dealing with organizational issues. And we look at stress and trauma and the impact of the mind-body connection in that. And first responders don't understand the mind-body connection. You would think they would understand the mind-body connection as much as we know about the body, but we don't. And I heard somebody say recently that when the mind and the body get in a fight with each other, the body always wins. And so for us, we keep trying to tell ourselves that we're okay, and the body's telling us different. And usually the body wins in those situations. And teaching community resilience model here, I just taught 23 new recruits with the Savannah Police Department on Tuesday, community resilience model, and to be able to get to them early and help them understand that their emotions are okay, and that they can deal with the things of life and teaching them ways to pause. And one of the things I love about CRIM is that there are things you can do and nobody else has to know you're doing them. You can have a resiliency pause and think of somebody that uplifts you, or some of the other, the 5 tracking areas that we have just are easy to do. And it doesn't have to make you stick out and look like you're doing something in our minds, sometimes something weird. So I love the ability to be able to teach CRIM to first responders. It's a big help. It helps them understand what's going on. So how can you help? One of my desires is to be able to get around uh, the state of Georgia to help first responders see and understand. And we're kind of a weird people. Sometimes we respond better to people who are us. It's a struggle sometimes for us to say to people, well, you don't understand me. For me, they can't do that because I've spent over 20 years in fire and EMS. You can say thank you. You can tell. We don't hear that a lot, although we don't expect it a lot. It still makes us feel good and feel like we're doing a good thing when we hear somebody say thank you for your service. Counselors out there, become trauma trained. There are certain things that we respond better to as first responders, EMDR, CBT, areas where we tend to respond better. EMDR works well for us because it helps us get in the door without having to relive the trauma initially, and it helps us find the areas that we are struggling with. And so I encourage you to become trauma trained so we can have more counselors available to treat the first responders that are out there. For us, the calls are the trigger. The calls are the trigger that causes the issues of anxiety, stress, sleep depression, deprivation, poor self image. Those are the things. And when we see those over and over again during the day, we start to believe that they're true. We're the helpers. We shouldn't need help. And sometimes that's how we see ourselves. So, one of the things that as I was thinking about the skills, one of the things that I think that works well for us and help now was always there. We're the ones who are there early. And so sometimes that works for us too. And so some of the things that I've seen first responders do and don't even really know they're doing it. And that would be things like just getting out of the building and walking outside and just looking at nature, getting outside and being quiet and just enjoying the outside. First responders have a terrible dark humor. We will laugh at anything. And one of the ways we kind of let stress go sometimes is talking to each other about calls and maybe things that you would think were not appropriate, but for us make us laugh. And sometimes we can release stress that way. So finding a way to be able to have that help now available to us, whatever it is, sometimes it's different from all the things that are listed. And sometimes we have the opportunity to be able just to relax and to see that happen. Please let us know how we can help you. Um, Reach out to us through, I think I'm on the, if you go to the Resilient Georgia website, you'll see me under the speakers information. You're going to get this, and my information is here. Please feel free to reach out to me, call me, and we want to be involved in helping first responders get better in all they do. And as we finish up this morning, I just want to leave you with this. And this is what I tell first responders every time I'm in their presence. Your presence on this earth makes a difference whether you see it or not. Are you listening this morning? You matter. And now I want to turn you over to Cami Rice and she'll introduce herself.
I don't know, Dale, if I can follow that. That was powerful. That was really powerful. Thank you for that. I'm Cami Rice, and I'm the founder of CWC Alliance. I always start with my why, and that is my handsome son, Christopher, and that beautiful smile. Unfortunately, I lost Christopher in February of 2016, but his addiction started with a health crisis, and he was heavily overprescribed opioids. And so, really wanted to take my pain and put it into purpose. The pain's always going to be there, but to put it into purpose. And that's when we found CWC Alliance because I truly felt that there was a missing piece with the healthcare team in all the instances that he was in the hospital. So at CWC, next slide, We have created a new role, the life care specialist, and their job is to be that care coach at patient bedside. We use coaches for everything in our society, but when you're in a health crisis, you don't have that coach at patient bedside to help you manage your pain, to educate you if you have to be on an opioid, how important and critical it is to taper off those opioids. And then there's the mental wellness side of getting better. And you're in the hospital, you're going to possibly have anxiety, stress, depression, PTSD, maybe all four of those things. We are currently support 11 life care specialists across 7 healthcare systems, hospitals in Georgia and in Arkansas. The plan is to have them in every hospital in Georgia, and the North Star is they should really be in every hospital across the nation. So we have a lot of work to do. But CRIM, the community resilience model, that is the key to our life care specialist toolbox. So, in the toolbox, everybody deals with pain differently. So, you have to look and observe a patient and see what it is, how they're going to relate to pain. We help them with a personalized pain management plan, again, educating them on the medication that they're currently on, what they're going home with. And then again, there is the mental side of being sick, and that's where CRIM comes to play. Turn to the next. So the life care specialist, they, a focus on, I will say, we try to do all the skills. Tracking is probably one of the hardest skills to utilize at patient bedside because the patients are in specific pain. So we really look at the help me now skills. We weave in all the skills of CREM. And we also I've definitely used the iChill app, and that's something that the patients can go home with. So, depending on the patient, depending on the injury and the health crisis, the other point to make is we also use CREM with the caretakers. Many times we forget about what stress the caretakers are going under because the focus is so much on the patient that's having the health crisis. But the more you can take care of the caretakers that are there at patient bedside, the more that they can help assist the patient. And those are just the skills, again, listed. And it depends on the patient's time that you have. We usually try to weave in the CRIM skills. Sometimes you might go to a patient, you might have 2 minutes. The next time you might have 15. The next time you could have 30. So it depends on how much time you get with that patient, how we intervene and use the CRIM skills at the patient bedside. But one of the key ones that we always use is resourcing. And interesting, Elaine kicked off today's session asking us who or what uplifts us. If you could put in the chat what you feel like your resource is. Is everybody putting that in there? I want to give 2 stories that were just very, very special that the life care specialists shared with our team. One patient was just talking about her resource being a vacation that she took in Dubai. And so the life care specialist took it upon themselves to go above and beyond, went and got on their computer and printed out all these pictures of Dubai and cut them up and went back to the patient and said, "Look what I've done here. Let's put together a scrapbook together." And at patient bedside, they put together a little Dubai scrapbook. Again, total distraction of the patient feeling pain. And then the patient had that scrapbook that when the life care specialist was no longer there, they could pick up the book and walk through it. And as they were making the book, the patient was able to explain little stories and share stories that they had in Dubai. So that's one of my favorites. Another story that I want to share is a lady was in extreme pain, and the life care specialist was really at wit's end of how do I turn this pain around? And she started talking about resourcing, and the lady just kept saying, gardening. So the life care specialist ran to Walmart, got a little bitty bag of dirt and 3 little plants, and went to the patient bedside, and they planted the little plants together. And she said for 1 hour, that woman never mentioned being in pain, not one time. And then she had the plants right there in her window at her patient bedside that she could look at, and that was her resource. So I love those. I love those stories of how we utilize resourcing at the patient bedside. Again, resourcing can be anything that brings you joy, comfort, strength, peace, or happiness. Smelling a vanilla candle. My mom's passed away, but if I smell a vanilla candle, I think of my mom. I can close my eyes and visualize the first time I got to hold my grandson. That's a resource for me. So, there are no restrictions of what brings you personally joy and happiness and peace. Okay, next slide. So we don't just use CRIM at the patient bedside, even though, again, it is a core to the life care specialist toolbox. We've also done many seminars. We've trained over 3,000 frontliners with Emory with our Arrow program that they utilize during nursing burnout and so forth, and it really, really helped them. And I'll never forget a story where a nurse said, and I think Elaine was actually on this booster call. This was right after I was trained, and she said during COVID, she would have to go to the janitor's closet and push on the wall after a patient would pass away. And she would go in that janitor's closet by herself, do some breathing, do some help me now skills, but pushing on the wall and taking all of her pain and putting it into the wall enabled her to go back on that floor and deal with more COVID patients. And I'll never forget that story. Just last week, I provided CRIM skills to a national grief summit. These were all parents that have lost their children through the opioid crisis and the fentanyl epidemic and opioid crisis. And they were able to, I've already gotten feedback from many mothers, and they love the iChill app and they love the resource of memories of their children. We've also been trained with the Youth Ambassador program that Trauma Resource Institute has recently launched. And we are partnered with Resilient Georgia, and we provide CRIM is a part of the entire training that we do with our youth. We're training them about fentanyl, Narcan, how to be your own health advocate, but also mental wellness coping skills because our youth desperately need it and they love it. They love it. They're just embracing the skills. So those are the different ways that CWC uses CRIM. We are very honored to partner with Resilient Georgia and with the Trauma Resource Institute, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share today. And I would like to introduce Rosie and Callie, and they are going to share how they foster community resilience in coastal Georgia. Thank you.
Cami, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Kind of hard to beat that.
No.
My name is Rosie Harrison with Grow Initiative Georgia. I'm the executive director.
And my name is Callie Mauersberg, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator at Grow Initiative Georgia.
At Grow, we work with vulnerable communities, and we identify that as being families of low wealth, non-native English speakers, and recognizing that in coastal Georgia, over 10% of residents identify as speaking a language other than English. We also work with individuals with disabilities and their families, and families that are facing limited access to resources and systemic barriers. We purposely work with CRM because we integrate it into our natural programming organically. It's built into our bilingual literacy classes for adults and children. We incorporate it into our health initiatives where we place a strong emphasis on mental health, substance overdose prevention, and through our community navigation program where we connect our most vulnerable community members to essential services and resources. At the time when they're contacting us, they're typically in a crisis. So we're able to incorporate CREM immediately, either through grounding or resource seeking, and most importantly, when we have to take that resiliency pause. The reason we focus on these communities is because they tend to experience chronic stress. They tend to have limited access to culturally and linguistically appropriate services, and also have a higher exposure to adverse experiences and reduced mental health supports. Next slide.
And so our CRIM trainings that we give to the community, they definitely do align, which is what Rosie had just introduced. They definitely align with Grow's goals. Grow Initiative, we really seek to promote community resilience. We want to promote social service access. We want to promote health education, and we especially want to do this for the underserved, multilingual communities and low resource communities. Oh, can you go back one slide? Thank you so much. And so this supports the goal of preventing mental health crisis because we want to make sure that the community remains informed on what a mental health crisis might look like or a trauma crisis might look like, and then also try to shift the perspective away from one of weakness to one of strength. So GROW has adapted the CREM trainings to be as accessible as possible because GROW's main initiative is to be accessible and really provide lots of materials and resources for all communities, not just those that might have more readily accessible access. And so Grow has adapted these CREM trainings to be applicable to a wide audience, and we want them to also be super equitable to many diverse communities that we would serve. And so we want to create a culturally competent approach to mental health services, and we believe that with CREM, we can definitely do this. So the CREM trainings can be applied to an individual level, which would build self-regulation, an organizational level, which integrates community trainings and it creates more of a trauma response-based culture, and then also the community as a whole. And we can identify the importance of the policy and then prevent future trauma responses and be inclusive of any individual experiences. Next slide.
We recognize that as we're working with vulnerable communities, we have to remember that the priority is to serve them and meet people where they are. So establishing partnerships with community members themselves and community organizations that are already doing the work in the area was essential to us. We recognize that a strong barrier or one of the main barriers in supporting underserved communities or vulnerable populations is mistrust. And we aim to use CREM to not only support community resiliency, but also establish a partnership and trust in new avenues and organizations that are coming to community. We also recognize the need for establishing engagement during the presentation of how the program was presented. Excuse me. So we focus on activities to encourage large and small group conversation. We met people where they are by allowing them to create a free space, a safe space to share where they were in their journey to resiliency. We focus on establishing the groups as diverse, but also allowed for community to address those difficult issues. One of the things that we recognize as we continue to do work in communities is that there's a lot of different environments that people are having to transcend, and their experiences are also being impacted, not just in their professional field, but also as they travel into home. We recognize the importance of CREM as is built into our programming, and we also recognize two things that is vital for communities and for programming to be effective. We needed to have certified community health workers, and we needed to have a health professional so that we are able to meet people where they are, answer questions, and be able to navigate them through our community navigation program appropriately and effectively. We believe that we don't know what's best for you. You know what's best for you. We just have to provide with those tools. And having access to those tools can be difficult when you're in a moment of crisis. Next slide.
And so with adapting CREM to the trauma response that we want to use to serve our communities, we do recognize that there are challenges that are common to community outreach efforts, which include fear and mistrust. And this can be related to anything that is systemic, policy-wise, also referring to immigration statuses and any stigmas around mental health that might already exist in those communities. And so to adapt the CREM training to fit community needs and ensure that the trainings remain relatable to a large audience, we wanted to engage our audiences by inviting them to identify barriers or a barrier that they experience in their daily life. And then we like to provide them with a common community barrier to make the experience as relatable and as equitable as possible. And so there's a lot of lessons that we have therefore learned from providing communities with these CREM trainings. And so we wanted to start with safety and trust and establish trust in the community so that we use accessible language and carefully explain any clinical language that we use, and then also introduce CREM as a community tool rather than a clinical tool. We also find that when the patient or when the participants are able to recognize their own level of stress, they can also identify that it is difficult to change the assumption that stress is not a weakness, but it can be a strength, and you can use it as a strength. And then this, of course, further opens the conversation to include more sensitive community topics, which includes serving more vulnerable populations, and that can be disabled populations, elderly populations, and populations of children in the community. So next slide. And so we also wanted to do a demonstration of our grounding activity that we might introduce to the communities that we serve. And so this activity relates to rewiring the nervous system response. We recognize that whenever we do this training, it's important to introduce the autonomic nervous system in a non-clinical way. So I would usually start by saying that the autonomic nervous system controls all involuntary responses. So that would be heart rate, blood pressure, and breath rate in the body. And then this activity that CREM has given us to use as a community builder deactivates the sympathetic nervous system response, which is that stress, that fear response, and actually activates the parasympathetic response, which is that peace and that relaxation. And so we believe that CREM has provided us with this very powerful tool, a very accessible tool in order to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and kind of rewire the autonomic and the involuntary control mechanisms. And so I will leave it to Rosie to go through our very powerful grounding exercise with us today.
So we invite you all, if you would like, to join us in this grounding exercise. It's important to remember that grounding doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to take a long time, and you can do it anywhere you can, anything that you have access to, whether you're in your car, whether you're currently sitting at your desk, if you're in the kitchen watching kids. And this is an activity that we would invite you to join us. So for example, we invite you to find a comfortable position and take your time. Notice how your back is making contact with your chair, how your feet are making contact with the floor, if you're standing against the wall, how that pressure might feel between the wall and your back. If you notice any unpleasant sensations, we invite you to adjust so that you focus more on neutral sensations or those that are more pleasant. We ask you to bring your attention to what's happening in this specific moment, meaning you're safe. We also invite you to notice your legs, then feet. Bring awareness to your feet, making contact with the ground if you're standing or if you're sitting. Continue to notice any sensations that are more pleasant to you or neutral within your body and focusing on those. Perhaps if you were clenching your jaw is now looser. If you had your shoulders hunched, they may now be relaxed. I invite you to take a few minutes to feel your chest rise and lower as your breathing is regulated. And as we get ready to end, slowly scan your body and bring attention to all the sensations that are pleasant or neutral, remembering that whatever we pay attention to grows. Thank you for joining us.
We just wanted to wrap up again by saying thank you so much for joining us. And we're also very honored to have the chance to present for CREM today and Resilient Georgia. Please feel free to contact us and find more information about GROW and GROW Initiatives Georgia's initiatives. We have all of our social media posted as well as our website. And I believe that Resilient Georgia is posting presenter emails as well. Is that right, Miss Nikki? Okay.
Yes, we will share all of that in the follow-up document.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much. And I also have the honor of introducing our next panelists, which will be Lindy, Doug, and Todd.
Thank you so much. And my computer's a little iffy, so Todd or Doug will take over if I freeze. I want to take the occasion to thank Nikki for her superlative job of organizing this, and also Emily Ann for her leadership for Resilient Georgia and the extraordinary work they've done over the last many years, and to Elaine for being the founder of Trauma Resource Institute and for coming up with CRIM, which has just been such a gift to the world. We're bringing to you the work that we've done with the juvenile justice detention centers. Huge population, 6,000 youth go through the system every year. 1,000 are detained every day. Population is mainly of minority, and the average age is 16. So there is certainly a history of trauma. We had a grant from the DJJ to bring CRIM to the population, and we went to all 25 facilities and did deliver it to 600 youth at 25 facilities. Next slide. We taught it to either virtually or in person. They either got 1 hour in person or 2 hours virtually. And we did do some research. We found that it reduced anger and also PTSD symptoms. So it seemed to work. We did see them eagerly take up the skills. At a systems level, we did, of course, in every session, there were corrections officers there, but also we taught at the annual teachers meeting, and the teachers were able to get it. The funding didn't cover anything except for the youth. But we did connect with family members as well as of the skills, but the youth were already teaching there, and I'm using that teaching carelessly here. They were sharing the skills with their family members. Next slide. The next phase did not involve any research, but the Trauma Resource Institute wanted to pilot the Youth Ambassador Program called YAP. So we did this at the Atlanta detention center with 10 of the youth. It was a collaboration between CRIM Georgia, which is our local organization, DJJ, and TRI. And there was a 12-hour training with 10 young men, and they became peer ambassadors, not teachers, but I'm using the phrase literally here. And then we followed up by sending 2 CRIM teachers. Todd Wilcher is on this call, and he will tell you more about it. And they went weekly to provide coaching. Since then, 7 have transitioned out. Next slide. So this is in progress where the youth are returning to their communities. And so this is where we'd like to hopefully support the youth as they are back home. Most of them do have families, and CRIM could become the common language in the family. We hope to partner widely throughout the state with the Christopher Wolf Crusade Youth Prevention Network. This is just going to be a natural collaboration, but also we have a network with farmers and rural areas throughout the state with the Georgia Agricultural Wellness Alliance. And of course, Resilient Georgia has a huge network around the state. Now, next slide. Right now is June, going to be a training again by try of 15 young women at the facility in Macon, exact same program of the YAP program. So 15 girls will be trained as peer guides for their peers. So they will teach the JJ population is this partnership here, and will be supported by local teachers who live in Macon, CRIM teachers. But at this point, we are going to be doing some research. Ingrid Duva is on the call, and she will be leading the research along with me. Next slide. So this is one of the favorite slides of the youth. They can really get it. They're so young, their brains are just growing. And I think they understand about anger and immediately get this idea about tracking. Doug, would you like to teach this piece?
Sure. Tracking. If Sherlock Holmes had been a real person, I think he would have enjoyed the CRIM skill of tracking. Tracking is simply the process of noticing sensations in your body in the present moment, and then discerning whether you experience those sensations as pleasant, neutral, or unpleasant. Now, as you're willing, I invite you to join me in a very simple tracking exercise. I'd like you to put your palms together and then rub them vigorously. Go ahead, rub hard, then stop. And what do you feel? Many people, when they do this exercise, report feeling sensations of warmth and tingling in their hands. But your experience could be different. You could have different words for this. Whatever it is that you experienced, was that sensation pleasant, neutral, or unpleasant? Practicing tracking is the fastest, most efficient way to guide yourself back into the resilient zone. And by practicing tracking, we can increase our confidence in our ability to remain calm and balanced when we're facing adversity. So that's tracking. Very simple. And we're going to pass it to Todd, I think.
Yes, thank you, Doug. I just wanted to give you guys a brief overview of the work that we're doing with the young men at the Youth Development Center here in Atlanta. And I am very proud to say that they are very receptive to all that we share with them, especially the tracking, as they understand anger totally. But a lot of them have started to understand what triggers that. What are some of the sympathetic responses that they're having, and how they can bring themselves back into a moment of calm, and also help them to relate to the world outside of them. And what I mean by that is a lot of the young men had a hard time kind of understanding how to read the room. And one idea that they came up with was how to tell when a guard is having a bad day. And we just followed up with them and rolled with that. And they were able to understand how the guards would come in some days, and they could really sense when that was a day not to push the boundaries, but a day to kind of actually support the guards, which was very enlightening to all of us. Um, the youth also enjoyed understanding the brain and what part of their brain they're functioning out of when they're in this anger mode, understanding how to get out of that fight, flight, or freeze kind of mode, but also to help track and ground themselves and also establish resources. The other part of that was understanding how to accept a lot of their friends transitioning from the facility, and also some of the guards who they had become close to, who they saw as either mother figures or father figures. And so I think throughout all of this, this has helped our young people to understand that there's hope, but there's also a lot of um, hope in understanding their mental health, which is great. Mental awareness and understanding their body. The tracking that we've just seen is a great illustration. They were able to really use that to understand where their bodies and what sensations their body was telling them. So I don't want to take up too much more time. I could talk all day about the young people, but I thought it was a great opportunity to share with you guys on the work that's being done with our youth ambassador program. And they're actually teaching the staff and some of the guards a lot of the skills that they're learning. And the communication has increased greatly. So I think I go back to Doug now.
I
Oh,
think we're
Doug, you're
done.
on mute.
I think we're done.
Oh,
Oh,
Doug was on mute.
All right,
I'll
all right.
pass it to him.
Yes. So we're just transitioning over to Nikki. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you so, so much, Linda, Doug, and Todd. So grateful to learn about that really, really impactful work with the juvenile justice youth. So I'm going to transition to chatting a little bit about some of the community resiliency model work that we have seen across the state in early care settings. So childcare, daycare, preschool settings, and anybody who works with young kids 0 to 5. So we have supported this work in a variety of ways with our coalitions. So we have really supported strengthening the adult resilience of folks who are working with young children. So we've worked across coalitions, Resilient Coastal Georgia, Cobb Collaborative, um, are just two that come to mind, to provide like training to early childhood staff and caregivers in CRIM at no cost, sponsored by some funding that we have received from the Liz Blake Foundation. We have expanded trauma-informed care across child care, preschool, and family serving organizations, and supported classroom resources like mindfulness zones and calm corners in early care and school settings. And really why we're doing this is we know that when adults have these skills to regulate themselves in times of stress, and when they have an understanding of their own nervous system response and their own past experiences and um, how they have impacted their own development, we know this is going to help them and help the children co-regulate in a healthy way as well. This will provide children with safer, more responsive, and more trauma-informed care environments. So Audrey is going to be putting some resources in the chat. We have a guide for resiliency zones and mindfulness zones that can be used in classroom or daycare settings. And we also have a trauma-informed guide for early care and learning centers that we have developed as well. And so it has a variety of resources and trainings and information for folks in this space. Another amazing resource that was developed in tandem with the Center for Interrelational Science and Pediatrics is we have an online course for early childhood professionals, and this is located on our website. The website link is listed on the screen, and Audrey will also place it in the chat. This is a free, self-paced, fully online module. So there are 9 modules, and it includes 4 decal approved training hours. So these professionals can actually get those CEUs, those continuing training hours from decal. The CRIM workshop is included in this. If you take a look at the side there in the list, we have included the community resiliency model in there. And so the focus really is on wellness, stress reduction, and resilience. We know that childcare and anybody like education, childcare, preschool, these are very high turnover fields right now. They're very low paying and a lot of work jobs. And so this is really what we are focused on, is to prevent burnout and turnover of these folks so that they can continue to do the best they can and take care of our little children in our state. So we really want to build up this workforce, support this workforce, and retain this workforce and advocate for them too, because it really is so crucial, the work that they are doing. That 0 to 5 development is really, really, really crucial for healthy human beings. So definitely check out this online course. And now I have the pleasure of passing it over to Leslie Danford with the Cobb Collaborative. And she is here to talk a little bit about the Basics Playgroup initiative that they have incorporated into their programming. And they've incorporated CRIM into the curriculum for this. So I'm going to pass it over to Leslie.
Thank you, Nikki. Yes, so I'm Leslie Danford. I work with Cobb Collaborative, and we started a play group about last August was our pilot group, and we started with a very small group of about 6 parents and their young children between the ages of about 12 months. I was actually an infant in that class, all the way up to 4 to 5 years. And it has been an extraordinary experience to grow with them. We did a 10-week pilot program. And then in February, we started again with many of these same parents and did a 16-week program that we're in currently. And what we do, it's based on the basics. And the basics is a framework out of Harvard University and their initiative surrounding the achievement gap. And what they were finding was that there was an achievement gap around age 2. And this was way before children were getting into school. And so, what they wanted to do was create 5 basic principles that all parents could do to focus on connection and mental health and early development and cognitive development. And those 5 are maximize love, manage stress, which we incorporate into all of our play groups, talk, sing, and point, count, group, and compare, explore through movement and play, and read and discuss stories. And so we're really building these connections between parents and their children, or caregivers and their children. We really want to support parenting knowledge and children's social emotional development. It is play-based in that everything we do is parent-led. So we have like a circle time where we introduce our concepts, do some music and movement, and then move on to the different play-based centers. So we might have a sensory bend, that focuses on letting children feel and, get into what they're sensing with their body. We might have a book reading where children sit in their parents' lap and really build that connection. We might have a music or movement activity, but all of these activities are play-based so that the children are really engaged with their parents. It's for their parents to interact with their children, not for the teacher to interact. So it's very parent-based instead of child-based. And we do focus on serve and return interactions and responsiveness. Again, we want parents to understand that striving for 5 back and forth of serve and return is really when that language development really takes off. And that by serve and return, you're starting up all the relationship building and communication skills with young children. And we're talking about pre-verbal children, through children who are, talking, asking questions. And so it's really helping parents understand what to do and how to interact with their children at all these different stages. And then we do have take-home newsletters that reinforce skills and learning at home. And so each week the parent receives a newsletter that whatever our theme was for the week, they get other activity ideas that they can do at home that are free or low cost, just with the things that they already have around the house. And so hopefully they're easy to do at home and to take those actions with them. And what we found from our feedback is that 100% of parents learn new ways to engage with their child and would recommend to others. 80% built routines and coping skills and felt more connected to other caregivers. And we really, really love this fact because we're seeing the relationships really build between the parents, which is really what we wanted because we know that's building a resiliency model right there and connection. And so getting parents to talk to each other about the challenges that they have, what's going on in their lives, what they're facing, and being able to bond with each other is really, really an important skill in what we're trying to promote with the basics in these play groups. And then CRIM and wellness training increase confidence, connection, and practical skill use, leading to stronger caregivers and healthier child development. So we have actually also presented our parents with specific CRIM skills and resources. So some handouts for them. We do talk about grounding, and we also have given them a storybook that's based on CRIM practices so that they can read with their children and build those relationship as well. So I believe that's it. So Nikki, did you have anything else that you wanted me to touch on?
No, that was incredible. And thank you so much for sharing on behalf of the Basics initiatives and the play groups with Cog Collaborative. So grateful you were able to join us this morning, Leslie.
Thank you.
Such an amazing two-gen approach, helping caregivers, helping the adults that are raising children. So, and in turn, teaching the children the skills as well. So this is essential, right? I touched on this before, but CRIM skills address high burnout and turnover in high stress fields. We've seen research supporting this in regards to nursing and healthcare. And so that's why we're really trying to target early childhood workforce as well, because we know this is a need. This is an area that we're seeing concerns. And so we want this workforce to build up skills to regulate their own stress, to be able to de-escalate situations, increase their sense of well-being as well. So by embedding CRIM into training classrooms and leadership practices, we create a sustainable culture of wellness where both adults and children can thrive. And that's ultimately the goal of bringing CRIM into the early care space. So I wanted to take a moment to just share one more CRIM skill. So gesturing is one of the 6 CRIM skills. So we've talked about 5 today. So we talked about tracking, resourcing, grounding, and what am I missing? Tracking, resourcing, grounding. Oh, health now, and now gesturing. So if you take the full CRIM training, you would go into depth with these skills, but we wanted to give everybody just a little taste today. So gesturing is any sort of self-soothing body movement that express safety, it express calm to your body. It calms the nervous system. And a lot of these things we might do automatically. We might have a self-soothing gesture that we already do. And it's nice to just kind of tune into that. Like, what are we doing in times of stress to regulate ourselves? Because most likely you're doing something. Something that I do pretty often is I like fidget with my rings. This is kind of like a little, maybe a nervous like fidget tick, but it can also be a soothing gesture, or maybe even bringing your hands over your heart, just feeling the pressure of the weight of the hands on the chest can always be very self-soothing. And then any movement here that supports you in comfort, joy, strength, or courage. So there's a few examples here on the screen. Maybe prayer hands, maybe giving yourself a nice hug or squeezing your arms. And you always hear about standing in front of your mirror like Superman before like a presentation or an interview or something like that. It tricks the brain, right? It tricks the brain into feeling more confident and strong, and you have that sense of pride. So my question for you is to reflect in the chat. Can you identify a soothing gesture you use or would like to use when you're stressed? Is there something that people already do they can think of? Yeah, I see Scarlett said she also fidgets with her rings, the heart touch, Superman pose. Yeah, taking deep breaths, sometimes breathing with some sort of like physical gesture. Oh, twirling your hair, fidget with your hair. Those can be very self-soothing. Giving yourself a hug, closing your eyes and breathing, tapping your feet. Beautiful. Yeah, rubbing your necklace, popping your knuckles. Yeah, rubbing your beard. Yeah, yeah. All of these things provide us comfort. Rubbing stones. So many incredible ideas shared in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing, you. So if you want a deeper dive into CRIM and what this is, so we've heard from a variety of incredible presenters today and how this has been used with first responders, with patients in pain management in hospital settings, in juvenile justice, as well as with culturally diverse populations. And so if you want to learn more about the community resiliency model and take the full training, we do have opportunities currently for folks that are serving young children, but also just in general. So definitely reach out to us if you are interested in taking the full training. We have funding right now for the early childhood space. So if you would like to set something up at no cost, we can provide it to childcare professionals, preschool teachers, coaches, scout leaders, parents and caregivers, church nursery staff, really anybody who is working with kids 0 to 5. That would be very feasible for us to provide a training, whether in person or virtual. It's very flexible in the format of how it can be offered. So please contact me if you would like more information on that. And then we can also provide CRIM trainings outside of this sector as well. We actually have a virtual CRIM training coming up May 13th. So it's a Wednesday, 2 weeks away from 10 a.m. to noon. I will actually be hosting a virtual CRIM training. And so Audrey is going to put in the chat the registration link if you would like to take the full CRIM training and learn how to incorporate these skills into your day-to-day life. We would love to see you there. So now I have the honor of introducing my colleague, Dr. Andrea Meyer-Stinson, and she is going to talk a little bit about her work on the workforce side, and we have an announcement for an upcoming opportunity. So I'll pass it to her.
All right, so I'm going to try and model CRIM for a moment, so don't change the slide. But as a presenter, it can be very anxiety provoking to talk to a large group. So I find it super helpful, especially when I'm teaching about CRIM, as I'm a CRIM teacher and guide, to just note that I'm going to take a moment. So I'm going to do a gesture real quick, holding my hands over my heart. Take a deep breath. And then I'm going to do one of my favorite things, which is a help now skill, which is to take a sip of coffee. Coffee is one of those things that really soothes me. So I'm going to take a sip real quick. All right. And now I feel so much more prepared. So thank you for giving me that moment. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Meyer-Stinson. I am the Director of Workforce Strategy and Initiatives at Resilient Georgia, and I'm really excited to share a little bit more about an opportunity that's going to launch in a few days. So just as some background, in 2023, Resilient Georgia was selected by Kaiser Permanente to participate in a workforce accelerator project. That Workforce Accelerator project was to focus on early career mental health professionals and help them move towards licensure. We've heard today so much about the importance of having a workforce that can be regulated and that we can retain and that we can reduce burnout. And so part of the issue we have, at least in Georgia, but also across the country, is that about 50% or more of clinicians who earn a master's degree never achieve full clinical licensure. So I'm just going to repeat that. 50% or more of our mental health professionals who graduate with a master's degree never earn full clinical licensure. So this initiative of the accelerator was really created specifically for that workforce to provide what I call a warm hug around our candidates, which we call is what we call our early career professionals, and to support them on that journey, which is often a 2 to 3 year journey post graduate school. Now, today we've heard so much about CRIM, and CRIM is such an available, accessible resource for wellness. At the same time, we also know that we have folks who might need additional care beyond those wellness skills. So growing and sustaining a strong mental health workforce in Georgia is so essential. And I'm just really happy to be part of Resilient Georgia and to be doing that work. We had 2 years of version 1.0 of the Mental Health Workforce Accelerator. And in January, that shifted into a new name. So it is now called the Mental Health Career Accelerator. And it shifted in programming. And so I won't tell you about the first version, but the second version of this program really focuses on candidates' needs. And one of the ways we do that is through offering a $10,000 cash stipend, not ash, but cash. I don't know, I forgot the C there. Cash stipend for those candidates to use for professional development needs throughout those mostly 2 years early in their journey towards licensure. The thing that we have really learned through working with candidates is that transition from graduate school to professional licensure is very fraught with barriers. One of those primary barriers is finances. And so this cash stipend goes directly to the candidates who are selected, and they are responsible for demonstrating achievement towards licensure in order to earn portions of that cash stipend along the 2-year time period. So in addition to that cash stipend, they get access to professional mentorship and support through myself. And so I offer monthly meetings and connection with them and meet individually with them to help guide them through the licensure journey. And so you may be sitting here wondering, well, who can do this? So who are we looking for? We are looking to recruit for this upcoming cycle 51 new career clinicians to apply for the program. And so the eligibility criteria are pretty straightforward. They have to have completed a master's degree at an accredited program. They have to be pursuing licensure in Georgia in one of the 3 mental health disciplines, which includes counseling, MFT, marriage and family therapy, or clinical social work. And they have to, in their application, demonstrate some financial need. They have to also discuss and show how they are committed to serving communities in Georgia with unmet needs. They have to be early in their career journey. And that is an interesting statement because I will say some people have been in the mental health field but have not been working towards licensure until recently. So they don't have to be just out of graduate school. Let's say they've been working in the field but had not started that supervision and clinical experience until recently. They can qualify as well. And they have to be employed at an eligible mental health or community mental health center. So we work with mostly nonprofit or community mental health centers. A lot of folks apply who work at CSBs throughout Georgia. And I don't know why my Alexa just turned on, but she told me it's 12:15. And they also could work at federally qualified health centers hospital settings, and serving the underserved is really what we're looking for there. So if you know of someone who might fit those qualifications, or if you could just share this information out, we will have it probably posted in one of the next Monday memos that goes out through Nikki. We also have our own website at workforce.resilient.georgia. And you can also find more information about it through the National Council website. The National Council is the national administrator for this program. And I forgot to mention earlier that this program was initially launched in Georgia and Colorado, but now has expanded to Southern California, Hawaii, Oregon, Washington State, as well as the mid-Atlantic states of Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So Kaiser Permanente is really focused on expanding out across the whole country, this program. Yes, Becky, school counselors can apply. All right, and thank you for listening. I think we have another slide. Yes, we do need to visit Hawaii. I'm signing up for that Hawaii visit in Leon. So I just want to mention here to save the date. We do have a date set for our next general meeting. It will be November 12th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 12:30. And now I'm going to pass it back to Nikki to wrap things up. Thanks, everybody.
Andrea, and we'll definitely get all of that information shared out in the next Monday memo. I wanted to announce our raffle winners before we log off for the day. We have, let's see, Tom Crick, and we have Jennifer Jolly. If you can just confirm via chat that you would like to claim your gift card. You can go ahead and email us at info@resilientga.org to claim your gift card, and we'll go ahead and get that sent to you. So again, Tom Crick and Jennifer Jolly, I see that you're still on the call. So go ahead and email us to claim that. Yay, thank you, Jennifer. And Tom, yes. Okay, awesome. Glad you both saw that. Congrats to our raffle winners. Thank you all so much. So this wraps up our April 2026 general meeting. Thank you so much to all of the presenters. Huge shout out to Elaine Miller-Karras from the Trauma Resource Institute. We are so grateful to have heard from you at the beginning of our meeting today. And we would love feedback from you all. Thank you so much for joining us. If you scan this QR code, it just takes a couple minutes. We would love your feedback to help inform future meetings. But this was such a lovely way to start off our Thursday, and I hope that you all have a great rest of your week. And stay tuned for the follow-up document and the recording that we'll share out within the next couple weeks. Thank you all so much, and have a great Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Nikki, did I just say wow, 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 wow? Amazing. I am going to be empowered for the rest of the year after listening to everyone's. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Thank you so much, Elaine. Such high praise. I'm so honored that you were here today and that you could see the incredible work going on across our state. Thanks to you and the Trauma Resource Center.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you. I'm going to keep the QR code if folks are still scanning. There's also the link in the chat. Feel free to click that to complete the survey. And I'll just leave it up for about another minute and then we'll end the call.